We're going to start off this video with an easy brush. We're going to make a paper texture brush. We're going to duplicate the watercolor flat brush so that we have something to start with. We will set the spacing to 17, and we're going to turn the streamline off, and we're going to turn the jitter off. In shape, we're going to go to the source library and choose the hard circle here. And we're going to turn the scatter off. Then we'll go over to grain, and we will import from the source library the sketch paper. And we will leave all of these the same as they were for the last brush. Let's go over to rendering, and we're going to change this to a light glaze with no wet edges. So let's turn those off. Under wet mix, we're just going to disable everything here. The dynamics, we're going to zero that out as well. And we're going to zero out the Apple Pencil. And then in properties, let's increase the preview here to 30. Set the smudge to none. The max size we're going to set to 800 and the minimum to 40. We'll set the maximum opacity to max, and that gives us a brush that we can use to paint paper on. And as you paint over the same place over and over again, it will make the color more and more rich. We can see that if we choose a color to go with. You can see how it gets more and more rich the more you go over it. So we're going to call this the paper brush. And we'll create a reset point. We'll click done. I have a very, very light orange, reddish orange selected here. I'm going to put my brush size all the way to the top, and I'm going to swipe over once, and you get a light paper texture. And each time you swipe over, the paper texture will get darker and darker. And it's that quick and easy to create a paper brush. And now let's move on to one of the more advanced brushes. We're going to make an ivy leaf brush, and we're going to turn it into a stamp. We're going to use the maple leaf brush from our original tutorial. You will see the link in the description. I'm going to take this one and duplicate it, and I'm going to move it here into my build on 3, and we'll put it all the way up here at the top. But we're going to need to create a square canvas. We can either start up a new project, or we can go to the actions menu, which is the wrench/spanner up there at the top, and go to crop and resize, go to the settings, and we're going to make this 2048 by 2048, 300 dpi, and we'll click done and done, and there we go. Let's go ahead and clear out layer 1, set the background color to black, and our paintbrush to white. So we're going to be using the monoline brush that we created in the last tutorial. We're going to set the brush to just at the top of 4%, and that creates a thin enough line that we can get a nice point up at the top whenever we make our leaves. All right, now what we want to do is turn on our drawing guide. We'll go to Edit, go to Symmetry, and we want the vertical symmetry, and we want the drawing guide a color that we can see. Any color that suits you is just fine. I'm going to use this nice light cyan color. And we'll click Done, and we'll make sure that Layer 1 says Assisted. If it does not, just tap on it and put a check mark next to Drawing Assist. And now we're going to create our ivy. We're going to use a 3-point ivy. Let's see, right about there looks nice. And more down than up. Let's edit that shape so that we can move this point right there. And then we're going to make wrong direction. One last leaf. It's going to curve up to here. We're going to edit that shape because we need a nice big curve on that. And then we're going to give it a stem. So to give it a stem, we're going to turn off the Drawing Assist and just give it an indication of a stem there. And then we're going to fill in all the shapes. So there's our first one. I'm going to move it up here. Remember, whenever I make my leaf brushes, I try to have 3, and I try to have them look different. So layer 2, Drawing Assist on. There I go with my thing not zooming in, and instead it moves the whole piece. And it didn't close in here, so I'm going to close it in. I like that little dimple on the top of that one. Let's fix the middle of this arc so that it's smoother. That became an ellipse, and we don't want that. There we go. And give it a bit more roundness. And then we're going to turn off the assisted. And we're going to give it a stem. We'll make the stem go this way. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because this is nature. And that gives us our second These will be resized because we have to be able to fit them all on the one canvas. So layer 3, drawing assist, and let's make a third. Right about there's good. And I turn the canvas because it's easier for me. And we'll turn off the drawing assist. Make our stem. We'll give this one a rounded bottom just because it's different. And we'll fill those in. So now we have our 3 leaves. I'm going to set the opacity for all 3 of these layers somewhere around 50% so I can see them. And let's go ahead and bring these 2 back towards the middle. And then we're going to select all 3 layers and we're going to resize them. Basically, we just want to make certain that we'll be able to fit 3 of them in here, and I think we will. So we're going to take this here and we're going to rotate it around this way and move it over here. Then we'll take this one, let's rotate it that way and put it there. And then we'll take this one, rotate it all the way around, and we need to move it so that it's over here but not touching the other 2. Okay, maybe give the other 2 a little bit more room. And sure, that looks good to me. Now we're going to max out the opacity. And we're going to give these a vein treatment. We're going to go to our eraser and we'll go once again to our build on monoline and let's put it down to 1%. And we're going to use this to erase parts of our leaves. Now let's go ahead and merge these down, then it doesn't matter which layer I'm on. Now remember, where brushes are concerned, white is a solid color, black is no color, and grays are colors in between. We need that central to go above these others. And I'm just giving it a leaf vein pattern here. It'll look a little bit more realistic that way. So when we use this brush, it's going to have some transparency here where the veins are. And this is all kind of boring, so I'm going to zip through this for you. Enjoy the music.
All right.
Okay, and I don't know if you noticed or not, but if you make a mistake while you're doing your erasing, you can simply go back to your brush and color that in. So basically it's erasing your erasing. Now that we have the veins on these, we're going to highlight everything, make sure that magnetics is not on, and do a fit to screen. And now we're going to copy this layer, and we're going to go into our copied maple leaf brush. Let's see, we are going to have a spacing of 20. Spacing is how far apart your brush is. The maple leaf, of course, being a larger leaf, would need to have further spacing. Jitter, I'm going to change to none. As you can see, the jitter kind of spreads things out. And since this is an ivy leaf and an ivy is a vine, we want them to be nice and close together. For the shape, we're going to do an edit, import, and paste. And there's our ivy leaves. Scatter, right now it's at 100. We want that to be around 61 because we want it to have slightly more regular pattern because it's a vine. And then the rest we'll just leave as is. The grain, we're just going to leave everything the way it is. Let's go to rendering. And instead of intense blending, let's go for uniform blending. And that sort of makes the leaves a little bit closer together in color. And you'll notice that you get a different pattern here with the intense blending and the uniform blending. The intense blending puts different leaves on top than the uniform does. So uniform, we're going to give it a wet edge because what we want to do is outline. And we especially want to outline where these veins are at. We don't need a big wet edge. So let's put it at what, 29. And the type of wet edge I'm going to have a burnt edge. I'm going to take that wetness and burn it by 78. That's, fairly high, but we want it to be a nice outline. Burnt edge mode is multiply. Let's change that to difference, and you'll see that that actually shows the edge a lot better. Blend mode normal. This is something that you can play around with. As you can see, you go through different ones and it changes what you're seeing completely. But we're going to leave it at normal for now. And then we're going to go down to the wet mix. And the charge, which is how much paint is initially on your brush, we're going to make that 50. And we're going to put a pull of only 75. Once again, it's a smaller brush. You want a smaller amount there. The pull is how much it's going to pull on paint below it. And I honestly don't know if this is going to change anything on here, but I'm going to be safe here. Let's go to color dynamics, and we're going to change this a little bit too, because of course it's a smaller leaf, so we need smaller dynamics. The saturation I'm going to put at 33, and the darkness I'm going to put at 29. And that makes it, a little bit less variance whenever you're painting. And then we'll go to dynamics. I'm going to change the speed size to 0. And I'm going to change the speed opacity to 0. The jitter size, you notice the larger the jitter size, the more smaller leaves you have. We'll make this 62. And Apple Pencil, I want everything zeroed out. And under Properties, for the oak leaf brush, we had the preview at max. Once again, smaller leaf. So we're going to put the preview at 81. It's not that much smaller, but it's a little smaller. You can see here. You can tell more of what you actually have on your brush. Smudge is how much the edge of your figure or image, whatever you want to call it, has blurriness on the edges. And we're going to put that down to 75. Once again, because it's a smaller leaf. And because it's a smaller leaf, we're going to make the maximum size 400. And we're going to give it a minimum size of 40. The maximum opacity, we're going to have max. Basically, we don't need to have these go transparent. They're not like a thin petal would be or something. And then we'll go to about this brush. And we're going to call it Ivy. and we're going to create a reset point. And let's see what we have here. We're on green there. Let's go up to layer 2, and here we go. You see there is a variance in the color, and you can see that there is, let's grab this one, right here along this edge, you've got kind of a darkening. That's the burnt edge and the wet edge put together. The same thing happens here with the veins. They're still semi-transparent, but they do have a color. I've been playing around with the brush here, and as you can see, I've got it so the edge is even darker. And what I did was I came in here and I turned wet edges off. Just to see what happened, I put wet edge all the way to max, and everything just blurs out. So I decided to try it the other way. And there we go. So I stand corrected on the edges. The wet edge is how much it gets blurred, even with the burnt edge set. It actually blurs out the burnt edge. And let's see how this brush works. We're going to create a new reset point. Click done. Make sure we're on layer 2. I think that works better with a 20% minimum. We will save that. And we are done with this nice little brush. Tap using the yellow color here, and we can actually make it look like a flowering vine. If you don't want to have to manually change the size of the brush in order to get the smaller branches, you can turn this into a variable width brush. So let's duplicate the ivy. We'll go down to Apple Pencil, and let's change the size here to max, which allows you to change the size as you go. And we will test that out. Let's give it a little size. We'll go up to 10%. When we press down hard, we get the 10%, and then we release as we go up. And there you go. You can get a nice variable width going. And you have now created 2 ivy brushes. Let's take this one. Instead of 81%, let's change that to a 50% preview. And that way we can definitely tell if there's a difference between the two. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you got some good information out of this tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.